afternoon, everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here with you and be the first speaker for the last part of today's session. I'm going to afford the digital transformation story because the cybersecurity is now challenged by unprecedented threats. Every organization, every business is exposed to new threats, new attackers. And I want to understand with you how the digital transformation is changing, is disrupting once and forever the cybersecurity field. I want to explore with you what are the requirements that our digital enterprises are expressed in terms of protections of assets, data and interactions in a dynamic and sustainable way. And what are the technology innovation, what are the architectural strategy to make your response sustainable today and in the future. Let me start with something that we know very well, the mobile experience. We are all mobile users, and we do love the mobile experience. It is simple, it is well serving us, it's evolving fast and innovating every moment, even preventing our needs. We love it so much that we give our most valuable data, our most sensitive information to a mobile device, to the cloud, to our business counterparts. And the ultimate reason why we do that is because we trust. Trust is something that is embedded and implicit in our mobile experience. Trust is the ultimate reason why we share our information. Trust is about the brand, how the organizations are exposing themselves to the external world. And the cybersecurity, not the trust, is something I notice when there is a breach, when there are headlines on the newspapers, when my personal account is hacked. It is a big hit in terms of reputation. Because the problem for every business and organization is not just competing against traditional players. It is not just competing against emerging players, what is called the Uberization of industries. We are competing altogether against a new, big, global player with unlimited resources, with a big business and with the purpose of making revenues and making profits out of the huge opportunities there is in the digital world, the cybercrime. So we cannot just work in a traditional way against the cybercrime. But to do that, we have to understand where we start from. And we are starting from the digital transformation. The big event that is happening around us, involving all of us, all aspects of our lives as individuals, citizens, employees, business leaders, and providing a number, or promising at least a number of benefits, tangible ones, more revenue, more insights, faster execution, increased productivity, increased efficiency. All the things we see about innovation around us, all the things about digital transformation are driven by the results in the organizations. And the businesses are evolving their way of operating beyond the traditional models. Somebody is looking at redefinition of market norms, creating new business models. Somebody is looking at how to redefine the productivity, creating new operating models. Somebody else is just looking at efficiency, looking at infrastructure models. Altogether, these innovations are going far beyond the pure standard, pure standard innovation. It is a sort of disruptive innovation. But why the businesses are doing so? The change is not driven by the business. The change happens because we, individuals, want to change. There is a big driver at the edge. We know very well that there are two edges. The human edge, where we as an individual, part of organizations, part of a citizenship, sit. And there is another edge that is the machine edge that includes all the systems that automatically are talking with each other, are exchanging information. Industrial SCADA, or telco switches providing information for the building. Not a novelty. Machines are already talking to each other. There is a major change here. And the major change that is happening at the edge is that the boundary between the human and the machine edges is blurring. The mobile device we use, just to take the example of mobility, is representing ourselves in the digital world. And the device is, on the other side, our arm to perform actions in the physical world. I can turn my house lights on just using a mobile device from here. What we have to do is dealing with the digital edge. The digital edge is a new realm where the difference between human and machines are not existing anymore. The machines can work in the physical world. The cyber actions happens in the digital world. And the human beings have a digital avatar representing themselves so in-depth to be our counterpart. Of course, this is introducing a number of new threats. New threats about how I manage the data in use, at rest, in flight. Risks of corruption of data, because a single bit of information can be irrelevant if not well transformed. The Internet of Things is not only about taking data out of sensors. Again, something we used to do in the machine edge since the 90s. But it's about translating data into actions, interacting with the world. So corruption can be very risky, especially for large volumes and large distances. What if a sensor is not working properly? Not to mention the compliance, the big risk of today. I live in the European Union. The Gulf has another kind of thing to federate or aggregate countries. But the number of regulations we have is a mess because what is in Europe called the GDPR to protect privacy is also has to do with 28 different regulations. How to deal with that? Thinking of the edge, thinking of our behavior as individuals, the goal is to protect the digital enterprise. And as for human beings, the digital enterprise blurs with the traditional enterprise in a way that doesn't make us ever able to distinguish themselves anymore. Let me understand the problem of the protection of the digital enterprise using three numbers. 205 is the number of days that an attacker stays inside an enterprise before being noticed, in average. 3.5 months. 46 is the average time you need to push the attacker out of the door as soon as you notice it. $7,900 is the business cost per minute of downtime of a data center. Real business, not digital business. And these are the numbers that we have to deal with. And we spent a lot of time in the last few years, and we have some good examples from my fellow colleagues here on the stage about how to protect in the hybrid world where the traditional data centers are blending with someone else's data centers, managed services or cloud or global providers. We spent years to understand how to deal with that because my data were inside the data center, good. Or on my employees' devices, we found techniques to encrypt them, to protect them. But what if it's in a cloud that is outside the European Union or outside the Gulf? And we understood, we developed techniques, we developed tools, we developed practices to understand how to sustain the integrity and security of data across this hybrid world. This is what happened, and this is where we are today. Still some work to do, but we are good enough now to deal with that. The bad news is that the world is changing again and faster. What happens at the edge is so disruptive, so big, so at a scale that is completely changing our habits. We cannot just stretch the best practices from data center to the cloud, because at the edge, an order of magnitude or two more of devices are adding a number of surfaces, a number of complexity to our needs. It is not just a question of taking the data and protecting the data. The cyber attacks can hit a SCADA system having a direct implication on the power that is distributed to our houses. Our car, our refrigerator, as my fellow colleague mentioned, could be attacked by an attacker. So the attack surface is not a surface anymore. It's a cloud of things and cloud of people that are around us. And you cannot prevent it. You cannot avoid it. Because the businesses need to work with sensors and devices as well as you do with a data center. Have a large customer with a strategy of moving everything to the data centers in the cloud. Good strategy. However, the business now has to do with a micro-segmentation for microgrids, having a lot of sensor devices. The two things are not compatible with each other and are both necessary because the time and granularity you can achieve at the edge is something you cannot do just moving the information back to the data center and downwards. In an industrial plant, when you have hundreds of sensors and actuators, you cannot just take this information, move to the data center and back to stop a pump that is going to explode. You need something local. Then you need something that we call, at the Hewlett Packard Enterprise, the edge. A new classes of systems that we launched first last year that are compact systems with compute and storage capability that can be deployed in any environment, not data centers necessarily, more or less the size of a Wi-Fi access point or a little bit higher, that can store information, analyze them, run analytics, take decisions, whatever is the status of the network behind that. The business need it, and under cybersecurity perspective, is a big hit because we have another layer, quite modular, quite granular, that you have to protect. So the real design we have to deal with today and in the future is not just a hybrid cloud, but a design where the edge is part of the design, and what matters is delivering continuously, fast, seamlessly, the right digital experience that your business wants to deliver to the digital edge, to us as human beings as part of the design. So, under cybersecurity perspective, you have to protect the core and the edge. You have to protect the data in the cloud. You have to protect the interactions at the edge. And this way of structuring the strategy leads to a conclusion. The conclusion is that you have to deal with a digital transformation as a whole. At the Hewlett Packard Enterprise, we describe the digital transformation in 4 categories: transform to hybrid infrastructure, empower data-driven organization, enable workplace productivity, and central to the scope, protect the data-driven enterprise. And protect means protecting the most prized digital assets wherever they are, in the cloud, at the edge, in between. Let me be a little bit more practical on it. We have 3 streams of activities that we recommend companies to do to protect the digital enterprise. Built-in protection to protect and defend data and applications. Detect and recover in a proactive way to manage breaches. And recover and comply to safeguard continuity and compliance. Let me explore them a little bit. Built-in protection means using techniques to harden, defend data wherever they are. We have a lot of them, antivirus, malware protection on the devices, but also consider what it means to deliver a piece of software to hundreds of devices at the edge, or millions of devices and sensors, and have it without vulnerabilities. If you do that, just patching it after the release, it is not possible. We will have vulnerabilities for all your life. Tools like Fortify helps to have a preventive analysis of the source code and prevent bad source code to be deployed. You have to deal with encryption in a sustainable way that must be fast and maintainable. What you have to do with protecting the digital enterprise is reducing attack surfaces and vulnerabilities at the beginning, making it more difficult for attackers to find holes to penetrate in your defenses, to limit the future impacts of disasters and efficiently use your assets, because security has a cost. And the costs become even more relevant when you want to detect and respond attacks. It is a question of time to detection and to reaction that leads the conversation. The analytics can help us a lot, but look at the solution we just delivered of DNS malware analytics. A company of the size of Hewlett Packard Enterprise has about 100 million DNS packets a day to be analyzed to understand if there is any malware infection. And the technique is to drop about 99% of traffic that is standard traffic to analyze only the portion that is relevant, because otherwise, ingestion of this data is unsustainable. This has to reduce the situational expenditure and help you to create a solid foundation for what is the recovery, because about $8,000 a minute is a huge business cost for a downtime. A recovery means to design resiliency and continuity of service against cyber shocks, because I don't care as a user if the data center is down because of a cyber attack or because of a simple outage. It is down, I'm not served. There are a number of tools doing that, there are a number of practices doing that, and we have a big portfolio for it, but all combining together, including my colleagues that were on stage before me, there are things you cannot ask today, because real-time graph analytics to understand if there is an attacker in the perimeter cannot be done today on scale, because the time of ingestion, analysis, and reaction is irrelevant and is still leading to minutes or hours. And a minute can be a point where an attacker can do a big damage to a city or to your enterprise. Hewlett Packard has a long history of innovation. And in the last few years, we launched one of our largest research programs called The Machine. We're using innovations like dedicated compute chips, universal memory, photonics, new operating systems, new visual analytics, new operation at scale to change this way of making analytics, to have new tools for security and other applications. The machine is designed to be powerful, open, sustainable, simple, and trusted. Trusted means having the principles of built-in protection, proactive security, proactive detection and reaction, and recovery by design inside the hardware, and inherited by the upper level. The machine is designed and conceived to host a capability in the silicon to protect against attacks, to make almost impossible for an attacker to enter and take the data at rest, in flight, and in use. That is a new category of potential surfaces of attack. The machine is designed to detect the possible attacks and roll back to secure checkpoints, and to recover immediately without sacrificing performance. Because at the end of the day, it's a play about economics. If the cybercrime can spend more money than you, it is likely that the cybercrime will succeed at the end. Now, what are the conclusions? Something is happening around us, and is happening at the edge. The digital edge is where the digital transformation is happening. It's a question of evolution we cannot stop. And we cannot prevent our businesses to do what they want because there's a way of competing against others. You have a competitor, the cybercrime, and the scale of the problem is making the things even more and more complicated and will increase more. There are a number of solutions, a lot of them, and there is a consensus that no single solution can solve every problem. To protect today and be ready for the future, you need basically two things. First, leverage the technology innovation. I mentioned the use of analytics for things like the DNS malware analytics today, or the machine in the future. Because the technology innovation is a way shared across all the good guys, as we are, against the cybercrime, to create a critical mass and leverage best practice at a scale that can compete against the cybercrime. And the second is design your infrastructure architecture and strategy and execute on it. Because if you try to add an application after the other, a component after the other, a piece of technology after the other, you are likely to fail. To succeed, you have to have a consistent way to invest today and leverage these investments for the future, to capitalize on what you have to do. So you have to consider all the components: compute, network, storage, application, operations in your design, and make that sustainable and consistent over the time in your execution. This is where we can help you. Thank you.